The morning started like any other Tuesday. Dr. Helen Carter stood in front of the large windows at the space station, drinking her coffee and looking out at the stars. She had been working there for 3 years, studying distant planets and searching for signs of alien life. It was quiet work, sometimes boring, but she loved it. Then everything changed. The alarm started ringing. Her coffee cup fell from her hand and shattered on the floor. On every screen around her, red warnings flashed. Something massive had appeared near Mars, something that should not be there. Helen ran to the main control room where other scientists were already gathering. Commander Jake Morrison was standing at the center console, his face pale. On the screen in front of him was an image that made Helen's heart stop. A ship, but not like any ship humans had ever built. It was enormous, stretching almost 2 miles long. Its surface was black, so dark it seemed to swallow the light around it. Jake turned to look at the team. His voice was steady, but Helen could hear the fear beneath it. They sent us a message. It came through in mathematics and physics. We were able to translate it. He paused, taking a deep breath. They call themselves the Zalkari. They say this solar system belongs to them now. They want us to surrender or they will kill us all. The room went silent. Helen felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. Aliens were real. They were here, and they wanted to destroy humanity. This was supposed to be the greatest moment in human history, first contact with another species. Instead, it was a nightmare. Within hours, every government on Earth was in emergency meetings. Leaders from every country gathered through video calls, their faces showing shock and fear. Admiral Patricia Hayes, the head of Earth's space military forces, stood before them. She was a strong woman who had spent her whole life preparing for war. But not this kind of war. Patricia spoke clearly, though her hands shook slightly. We are not ready for this fight. Our best warships are like toys compared to what they have. We have studied their ship from a distance. They have weapons we do not understand. They have shields that can stop our missiles. They have engines that make ours look like ancient technology. President Daniel Foster, leader of one of Earth's largest nations, spoke next. He looked tired and old, though he was only 50 years old. We cannot just give up without trying to talk to them. Maybe they will listen. Maybe they can be reasoned with. We must try peace first. So humanity tried. Dr. Nathan Pierce, the best language expert on Earth, worked for 3 days straight without sleeping. He sent message after message to the alien ship, trying to start a conversation. He offered friendship, trade, knowledge, anything that might interest them. But the Zalkari only sent back the same message over and over. Surrender or die. There was no room for discussion. Nathan finally gave up and called Admiral Patricia. His eyes were red from lack of sleep and his voice was broken. They are not listening to us. They do not care what we say. They have done this before many times. To them we are just insects to be stepped on. They do not see us as equals. They do not see us as alive in any way that matters to them. The alien ship had been in their solar system for 1 week when the deadline came. The Zalkari sent a detailed list of demands. Every country had to surrender. All weapons had to be destroyed. All governments had to step down. Humans would become workers for the Zalkari Empire, doing whatever they were told. In return, the Zalkari promised not to kill everyone. They would let humans live as slaves. The world leaders met again. The room was heavy with silence. Finally, Secretary General Liu Wei stood up. She was an older woman who had worked for peace her whole life. But now her face was hard as stone. We cannot accept this. We cannot let our children grow up as slaves. We cannot give up our freedom without a fight. Earth refuses. We will defend our home. Every leader in the room voted yes. It was unanimous. Humanity would fight. Admiral Patricia knew what this meant. Earth had 200 warships, from small patrol boats to 12 massive battleships. Each battleship was almost a mile long and carried powerful weapons. They were the pride of humanity, the strongest things humans had ever built. But the Zalkari had 300 ships, and their technology was far ahead of anything Earth had. This was not going to be a fair fight. This was going to be a slaughter. Patricia knew it. Every military officer knew it. But they also knew they had no choice. Captain Ryan Hughes commanded one of the 12 battleships, a vessel called Defiance. He gathered his crew of 800 people in the main hall. Some were crying. Others looked angry. All of them looked scared. Ryan understood. He was scared too. When we joined the military, we all knew this might happen someday, Ryan said to his crew. We knew we might have to give our lives to protect Earth. That day is here. We are not going to win this battle, but we are going to fight anyway. Every minute we keep them busy, every second we hold them back, gives the people on Earth time to get to the shelters. Our families, our friends, our children, we fight for them. We die for them if we must. The crew stood up and saluted. There were tears on many faces, but there was also determination. They knew what was coming. They knew most of them would not survive. But they would do their duty anyway. On Earth, people were rushing to underground shelters. Parents held their children close. Old people prayed. Young people tried to be brave. Everyone knew what was happening above them in space. Everyone knew that good people were about to die protecting them. Helen Carter was back on Earth now in a deep bunker beneath a mountain. She watched the screens showing the fleet preparing for battle. Somewhere up there, 200 ships full of brave people were getting ready to face an enemy they could not defeat. Her sister lived in Mumbai with her 2 young nephews. Helen had called them before the communications went dark. Her sister had been crying but trying to stay strong for her boys. "We will be okay," her sister had said, not believing her own words. "The shelters are strong. We will survive this." Helen had told her she loved her, told her nephews to be brave. Now all she could do was wait and watch. The sun was rising over Earth when the battle began. The human fleet moved into position, spreading out in a defensive formation. They looked so small on the screens compared to the Zalkari ships. The alien vessels moved forward slowly, confidently. They did not hurry. They did not worry. They knew they had already won. Admiral Patricia gave the order from her command ship. "All vessels, this is it. Fire at will. Make every shot count. Show them that humans do not go quietly into the dark." 200 ships opened fire at once. Missiles streaked through space. Railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. Energy weapons lit up the darkness. For a moment, it looked like humanity had a chance. Then the Zalkari fired back. Their weapons were like nothing humans had ever seen. Beams of purple light that cut through the strongest armor like paper. Explosions that seemed to come from nowhere. Human ships began to die. First 1, then 5, then 10. The Defiance shook as enemy fire hit its shields. Captain Ryan held onto his chair and shouted orders, but he knew it was hopeless. Within 3 hours, half the human fleet was gone. Admiral Patricia watched good people die, watched ships explode, watched humanity's finest moment turn into its darkest hour. The Zalkari were not even trying hard. They were playing with the human forces, showing them how weak they were. It was cruel and it was deliberate. The battle was lost. Everyone knew it. But the human ships kept fighting, kept trying, kept hoping for a miracle that would not come. They fought because surrender was worse than death. They fought because their families were watching. They fought because they were human, and humans do not give up even when there is no hope left. The space around Earth had become a graveyard. Pieces of destroyed ships floated everywhere, silent and dark. Captain Ryan Hughes was still alive, barely. His ship, the Defiance, was badly damaged. Half his crew was dead. The engines were failing. The weapons were almost gone. But he kept fighting because he did not know what else to do. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, was crying as she read the reports. "Captain, the battleship Indomitable just exploded. All 800 crew members are gone. The Victory is breaking apart. The Freedom has lost all power." Her voice broke. "Sir, they are not even trying. They are playing with us like cats playing with mice." Ryan looked at the screen showing the enemy ships. Sarah was right. The Zalkari were barely using their weapons. They could have destroyed the entire human fleet in minutes if they wanted to. Instead, they were making it last, making it hurt, showing Earth exactly how helpless humans were. It was torture. One by one, the human battleships fell. The magnificent vessels that had taken years to build were torn apart in seconds. Thousands of brave people died in the cold of space, far from home. Admiral Patricia watched from her command center on Earth, tears streaming down her face. She had sent these people to die. She had given the order, and now she had to watch them pay the price. Finally, after hours of fighting, the last human ship stopped firing. The Defiance drifted in space, its hull breached, its crew barely alive. Ryan Hughes sat in his command chair knowing the end was near. Around him, the few surviving crew members waited for death. At least they had tried. At least they had fought. Then the Zalkari flagship moved. It was the largest ship in their fleet, over 3 miles long. It positioned itself in high orbit directly above Earth. People on the ground could see it with their naked eyes, a dark shape blocking out the stars. It was a message, a statement. The Zalkari were here, and there was nothing humans could do about it. What happened next would haunt humanity forever. Every screen on Earth suddenly turned on, even the ones that were off. Every television, every computer, every phone, every display in every city and every home, they all showed the same thing. The bridge of the Zalkari flagship. And standing there was their leader, war leader Thractus. He was tall and covered in scales that looked like dark metal. His eyes were yellow and cold. When he spoke, computers translated his words into every human language at once. His voice was deep and emotionless. Humans of Earth, you refused our mercy. You chose to fight. Now you will learn the cost of defiance. Watch closely. This is what happens to those who resist the Zalkari. The view changed. It showed Earth from space, beautiful and blue. Then targeting symbols appeared on the screen, hovering over 7 cities: Mumbai, Shanghai, Lagos, Mexico City, New York, Tokyo, London. Each one was home to millions of people, families, children, old people, young people, all of them innocent. All of them about to die. President Daniel Foster was screaming into his phone, calling Admiral Patricia. Stop them! Do something, anything. But Patricia could only shake her head, tears running down her face. There is nothing left. The fleet is gone. We have no weapons that can reach them. We are helpless, the Zalkari fired. 7 beams of purple light shot down from space. They were beautiful in a terrible way, like lightning but brighter and more focused. Each beam struck the center of a city. The weapons did not explode. They did not burn. They simply erased everything they touched. The beams lasted only 5 seconds. But in those 5 seconds, they destroyed everything within 3 miles of the impact point. Buildings turned to dust. Streets vanished. Cars, trees, parks, schools, hospitals, all gone. And the people, 7 million people, simply stopped existing. Their bodies came apart at the atomic level, scattered into nothing as if they had never been there at all. The world watched in horror. Parents watched their children die. Children watched their parents die. Lovers, friends, families, all erased in an instant. And the worst part was that the Zalkari made everyone watch. They forced 8 billion people to witness the murder of 7 million. It was not just killing. It was torture. It was meant to break the human spirit completely. In the command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Helen Carter fell to her knees. Her sister had been in Mumbai. Her 2 nephews, ages 6 and 8, had been with her. Helen had spoken to them just yesterday. The boys had been scared but trying to be brave. Her sister had promised they would be safe in the shelter. But the shelter was gone now. Everything was gone. Her family was gone, Helen screamed. It was a sound of pure anguish, the sound of a heart breaking. Around her, others were doing the same. Nearly everyone in the bunker had lost someone. The grief was overwhelming, crushing, unbearable. The air was filled with the sounds of crying and wailing. War leader Thractus appeared on the screens again. His face showed no emotion, no regret, no mercy. 7 million humans are dead. This is only the beginning. We will destroy 7 cities every hour until you surrender. Your military is gone. Your defenses are destroyed. You have no choice. Surrender now, and we will allow the rest of you to live as workers. Refuse, and we will erase every city on your planet. The transmission ended. Silence fell over the bunker. People were still crying, but quietly now, exhausted by their grief. President Foster looked like he had aged 20 years in 20 minutes. His hands were shaking as he spoke. We must surrender. We have no choice now. We cannot let more cities die. We cannot let more people die. The leaders began to discuss surrender. They talked about terms, about how to save as many people as possible. But Admiral Patricia stood up slowly. Her eyes were different now. The tears were gone. Her face was hard and cold. When she spoke, her voice made people step back. It was the voice of someone who had nothing left to lose. No, Patricia said quietly. We are not surrendering. President Foster started to argue, but she cut him off. They killed 7 million of us and made us watch. They treated it like entertainment. They broadcast it like it was a show. They wanted to break us, to make us afraid, to make us give up. But they made a mistake. They showed us exactly who they are. They showed us that there can be no peace with them, no negotiation, no mercy. Patricia looked around the room at the shocked faces. They think they have won. They think we are beaten. They are wrong. We have one card left to play, one weapon they do not know about, and we are going to use it. We are going to make them regret they ever came to Earth. Secretary General Liu Wei was staring at Patricia. What weapon? Our fleet is destroyed. What could we possibly have that could hurt them? Patricia smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone planning revenge. For 30 years, we have been developing weapons in secret. Weapons we hoped never to use. Weapons that scared us. We kept them locked away because they were too dangerous, too terrible. But the Zelkari have shown us that there are worse things than terrible weapons. She turned to Dr. Helen Carter, who was still on the floor, her face wet with tears. Helen, I need you. Your team developed something 5 years ago, something that terrified everyone who saw it. We buried it, classified it, pretended it did not exist. But I know you kept the plans. I know you kept the prototypes. We need it now. Helen looked up slowly. Her eyes were red and empty, hollowed out by grief. But something was stirring in them now. Something cold and dark. The Cascade device, she whispered. Patricia nodded. The Cascade device. Can you build more? Can you make them quickly? Helen stood up slowly. She thought about her sister's laugh. She thought about her nephew's smiles. She thought about 7 million people who had done nothing wrong except be in the wrong place when monsters came calling. She thought about the cold satisfaction in war leader Thractus's eyes as he ordered their deaths. Yes, Helen said quietly. I can build them. I can build as many as you need. And I will not lose any sleep over what they do. She looked at Admiral Patricia with eyes that had gone from warm and kind to hard as stone. They wanted to see what humans do when pushed to the edge. They wanted to break us. Instead, they are going to learn exactly how dangerous humans can be when we have nothing left to lose. Around the room, something was changing. The despair was still there. The grief was still there. The pain would never go away. But beneath it all, something new was growing. Something hard and cold and absolutely ruthless. The Zelkari had tried to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had forged it into a weapon. Admiral Patricia began making calls, activating protocols that had been secret for decades. President Foster and the other leaders watched in shock as she took command. They were about to discover that humanity had been preparing for this day for a very long time, and the Zelkari, confident in their victory, had no idea what was coming for them. Deep beneath a mountain in Colorado, in a place so secret that most government officials did not know it existed, Admiral Patricia brought together 13 people. These were scientists, military experts, and intelligence officers. They represented the last desperate hope of a planet on the edge of extinction. Dr. Helen Carter was there, sitting at the table with red eyes, but a face set like stone. Next to her sat Dr. Marcus Chen, the head of a secret research program that had been running for 30 years. This program had developed weapons that violated every peace treaty humans had ever signed. Weapons so terrible that they had been locked in vaults, buried and almost forgotten. Until now, Admiral Patricia began the meeting with words that sent chills through everyone present. I am activating the Ghost Protocol. This is the emergency plan for an extinction-level threat. The Zelkari have shown us that normal rules no longer apply. We are facing an enemy that delights in genocide. We will respond with everything we have, no matter how terrible. Dr. Marcus Chen activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Images appeared, showing weapons that looked like they belonged in nightmares. Self-replicating robots smaller than bacteria that could take apart any matter they touched. Warheads that used quantum physics to explode across any distance. Biological weapons designed to target specific DNA. And then the most terrible of all, the Cascade device. The Cascade device was developed by Dr. Carter's team 5 years ago, Marcus explained, his voice heavy. It starts a reaction that converts matter directly into energy. Once it begins, it does not stop until all matter in its range is consumed. We never tested it at full power because our computer models showed it could potentially eat through an entire planet. Commander Lisa Grant, who led Special Operations Forces, leaned forward. This is a doomsday weapon. How does destroying ourselves help us defeat the Zelkari? Admiral Patricia looked at her with cold eyes. We are not going to destroy ourselves. We are going to give the Zelkari exactly what they want. We are going to surrender. And then we are going to hand them a gift that will destroy them. The plan was simple and brutal. Humanity would announce its surrender publicly. President Foster would make a speech showing defeat and hopelessness. The Zalkari, confident they had won, would send soldiers down to Earth to take control. They would seize power plants, factories, and technology. They would take everything valuable. But hidden inside the technology they seized would be cascade devices. Disguised as power generators and energy systems, the devices would be too valuable for the Zalkari to destroy. They would want to study them, to learn from them, to use them, and that would be their death sentence. Dr. Helen Carter took charge of building the devices. She worked 20 hours a day in the secret laboratory, her hands steady even though her heart was broken. Her assistant, Dr. Kyle Bennett, worked beside her. "This feels wrong," Kyle said quietly as they assembled another device. "We are building weapons that could kill millions." Helen stopped working and looked at him. "They killed 7 million of us and made us watch. My sister and her children are dead because these creatures decided that human life means nothing. Yes, what we are doing is terrible. But what they did was worse. And if we do not stop them, they will do it to other species across the galaxy. How many other civilizations have they destroyed? How many more will they kill if we show mercy now?" Kyle nodded slowly and went back to work. Around them, other teams were working on different parts of the plan. Engineers were hiding the devices inside power systems that looked normal. Computer experts were programming them to activate on command. Every detail had to be perfect. One mistake and the Zalkari would discover the trap. Meanwhile, Captain Ellen White and her team of computer experts were working on another crucial part of the plan. They had been studying every transmission the Zalkari sent, looking for weaknesses in their computer systems. And they had found something important. The Zalkari were arrogant. Their security was designed to stop other Zalkari, not primitive humans. They had left gaps that could be exploited. Ellen reported to Admiral Patricia with barely controlled excitement. "We can hack their communication network. We can upload a virus that will spread through their entire fleet in minutes. It will not destroy their ships, but it will do something almost as good. It will give us the coordinates to their homeworld and all their colonies. We will know where they came from. We will know where they live." Patricia's eyes grew even colder. "Do it. Because when we finish with their fleet, we are going to hunt down every Zalkari in the galaxy. They wanted to make an example of us. We are going to make an example of them. No species will ever think about attacking Earth again after we are done." For 6 days, humanity prepared in secret. On the surface, everything looked normal. Cities were evacuating. People were scared. The government seemed helpless. But beneath the surface, thousands of people worked frantically to build the trap. Soldiers moved equipment in secret. Scientists built weapons in hidden labs. Computer experts wrote code that would doom an empire. On the 7th day after the massacre, President Foster made his announcement. He appeared on every screen looking old and broken. His voice cracked with emotion as he spoke. "People of Earth, I have failed you. We cannot win this war. Our military is destroyed. Our cities are defenseless. I am ordering the complete surrender of all human forces. We will do whatever the Zalkari demand. We have no other choice." The speech was broadcast across the planet and into space. People watching at home cried. They felt betrayed and hopeless. But some people, those who knew the truth, watched with different eyes. They saw the plan working. They saw the Zalkari taking the bait. Aboard the Zalkari flagship, war leader Thractus watched the human president's speech with satisfaction. Another planet conquered, another species broken. He had done this dozens of times before. Humans were no different from all the others. Hit them hard enough and they collapsed. It was predictable and boring but effective. "Send the occupation force," Thractus ordered his subordinates. "Take control of their major cities. Seize their technology and resources. Begin processing the population for work assignments." His officers saluted and began giving orders. 300 transport ships prepared to descend to Earth's surface. 50,000 Zalkari soldiers got ready to claim their prize. Thractus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The humans had fought harder than expected, but the result was the same as always. Now their world would be stripped of resources. Their people would become workers and the Zalkari Empire would grow stronger. In a few years, no one would even remember that humans had once been free. What Thractus did not know was that in bunkers beneath the Earth, humans were watching his every move. Captain Ellen White was ready at her computer station, her finger hovering over a button. Admiral Patricia stood beside her, watching the Zalkari ships descend toward the planet. "Wait for my signal," Patricia said quietly. "Let them land. Let them take the devices. Let them think they have won." The transport ships landed in the ruins of the 7 destroyed cities. Zalkari soldiers poured out, securing the areas and setting up bases. Human officials, looking defeated, brought them what they demanded: technology, data, power systems. Everything the Zalkari wanted was handed over without resistance. It all seemed too easy. But the Zalkari were used to easy conquests. They did not question it. By the end of the first day of occupation, all the Cascade devices had been transferred to Zalkari control. The aliens examined them with interest, recognizing advanced power generation technology. "The humans are more clever than they seem," one Zalkari engineer reported to his commander. "These power systems are quite sophisticated. We should study them carefully." In the command bunker, Dr. Helen Carter watched the reports come in. Every device was now in enemy hands. Every trap was set. She looked at Admiral Patricia and nodded. Patricia turned to Captain Ellen White. "Upload the virus. Get me those coordinates." Ellen's fingers flew across her keyboard. Within seconds, the virus was spreading through the Zalkari communication network like wildfire. Within minutes, it had infected every ship in the fleet. Data began flowing into human computers. Star charts, navigation records, the location of the Zalkari homeworld, the coordinates of 19 colony systems, everything humanity needed to hunt down their enemy. Commander Lisa Grant stared at the information with wide eyes. "We have it all. We know where they come from. We know where they live." Admiral Patricia smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "Good. Now let us show the Zalkari what humans do to monsters." She turned to Dr. Helen Carter. "Activate the devices." Helen looked at the button on her control panel. One press and 50,000 Zalkari soldiers would die. One press and the trap would spring shut. She thought about her sister one last time. Then she pressed the button. In Mumbai, Sub-Commander Raktos was examining one of the human power generators when the alarm started. At first he thought it was a malfunction. Then he saw his soldiers beginning to scream. Their bodies were coming apart, dissolving into nothing right before his eyes. The building around him started to shimmer and fade. The ground beneath his feet began to disappear. Raktos tried to run, but there was nowhere to run to. The reaction was spreading in all directions. An invisible sphere of destruction that turned everything it touched into pure energy. His last thought was that the humans had tricked them. His last feeling was terror. Then he was gone, his atoms scattered to the wind. The same scene played out in all 7 occupation zones. 50,000 Zalkari soldiers died in less than 30 seconds. They had just enough time to understand they had been fooled before they ceased to exist. The bases they had built vanished. The equipment they had brought disappeared. Everything within 3 miles of each Cascade device simply stopped being. Aboard his flagship in orbit, War Leader Thractus received 7 emergency signals at once. All 7 ground bases reporting catastrophic energy readings. Then the signals cut off all at the same time. Complete silence. He stared at his screens in disbelief. "Get me a visual of the surface," he shouted at his officers. The cameras showed him 7 massive spheres of light on Earth's surface, each one growing slowly before fading away. Where his bases had been, there was nothing left. Just smooth, empty ground as if nothing had ever been there. 50,000 soldiers gone. His carefully planned occupation, destroyed in seconds. Understanding hit Thractus like a physical blow. The surrender had been fake. The defeated president had been acting. The humans had set a trap and he had walked right into it. His warriors, his soldiers, his people, all dead because he had underestimated these primitive creatures. "Recall all remaining forces," Thractus roared. "Arm all weapons. Prepare to bombard the entire planet. We will burn every continent, destroy every city, kill every human." His officers scrambled to obey, but then more alarms began ringing. The weapon systems were not responding. The navigation was failing. The communication network was going haywire. Then every screen on every Zalkari ship showed the same image. A human woman in a military uniform. Admiral Patricia Hayes looked directly into the camera, her eyes cold and hard. When she spoke, her voice was calm, which made her words even more frightening. "War Leader Thractus, you made us watch while you murdered 7 million humans. You broadcast it like it was entertainment. You wanted to break our spirit. Now it is your turn to watch. Your occupation force is gone, your fleet is disabled, and we have something you did not expect. We have the coordinates to your homeworld. She paused to let that information sink in. On the Zalkari ships, there was stunned silence. How could the humans have that information? It was impossible. Their security was perfect. Their systems were unbreakable. Yet somehow these primitive creatures had hacked their network and stolen their most closely guarded secrets. Admiral Patricia continued speaking. You could have come in peace. You could have asked for friendship. Instead, you chose genocide as your first option. You tried to terrorize us into submission by making us watch our families die. But you made a critical mistake. You thought that because we value life, we would always choose to surrender rather than fight. You were wrong. We mourn our dead. Every single life lost weighs on us. But you taught us something valuable today. When faced with monsters who enjoy destruction, the only answer is complete annihilation. You wanted to see what humans are really like? Watch carefully. From hidden launch facilities all over Earth, small ships began launching into space. They were not large warships. They were barely bigger than fighter planes. But there were dozens of them, and they moved fast, faster than anything the Zalkari had seen humans build before. Each one was controlled by an artificial intelligence and carried a single cascade device. The Zalkari crews desperately tried to shoot down the incoming drones, but their weapons would not fire. Captain Ellen's virus had done its job perfectly. The mighty Zalkari warships, each one capable of destroying cities, were now helpless. They could only watch as the human drones approached, one for each ship. The first drone reached a Zalkari cruiser. It latched onto the hull like a parasite. Then it activated its payload. The cascade reaction began, eating through the ship's armor in seconds. The crew tried to escape in life pods, but the reaction was too fast. The entire ship, 300 meters long and home to 200 warriors, simply dissolved into energy within a minute. One by one, the Zalkari vessels began to die. Cruisers, destroyers, battleships, all meeting the same fate. The proud fleet that had seemed invincible just hours ago was being destroyed by technology they had not thought humans capable of building. The crews died quickly, at least, turned to atoms before they could feel pain. But their ships, their mighty vessels, were erased from existence. War leader Thractus watched his fleet die. 300 ships. Thousands of warriors. The largest battle group the Zalkari Empire had sent in a generation, all of it destroyed by creatures he had dismissed as primitive and weak. He felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. His flagship was the only ship left. Admiral Patricia had deliberately spared it. Now her face appeared on his screen again. I am leaving your ship intact, Thractus. Do you know why? Because you are going to be our messenger. You will return to your homeworld and tell them what happened here. You will tell them that humanity is coming. Thractus found his voice, though it came out weak and raspy. You do not understand what you have done. The Zalkari Empire spans hundreds of worlds. Our military has millions of soldiers. You destroyed one fleet. We will send 10 more. We will turn your planet to ash and dust. Patricia smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Thractus had ever seen. Then we will destroy those fleets too. And then we will come for your colonies. And then your homeworld. You taught us that surrender is not an option. You taught us that mercy is weakness. Very well, we have learned our lesson. We will hunt down every Zalkari in the galaxy. We will end your species. You do not have the capability, Thractus protested, but there was no conviction in his voice. He had just watched humans destroy his fleet with technology that should not exist. What else might they have hidden away? What other weapons had they developed in secret? Patricia leaned closer to the camera. Do you think we showed you everything? The cascade devices were just the beginning. We have weapons that can take apart a planet's infrastructure in weeks. We have bombs that can crack a world's crust. And we have something you do not have. Motivation. You killed 7 million of us for entertainment. Every human alive will dedicate their life to making sure the Zalkari never hurt anyone again. She stood up straight. Go home, Thractus. Tell your people what is coming. Maybe they will choose to run. Maybe they will choose to fight. It does not matter. We will find you. All of you. And we will finish what you started. The transmission cut off, leaving Thractus staring at a blank screen. His bridge crew was silent, waiting for orders. Thractus sat in his command chair, feeling the weight of his failure. He had lost his entire fleet. He had lost 50,000 warriors. He had awakened something terrible in these humans. And now he had to go home and explain how he had turned a simple conquest into an extinction-level threat to his entire species. "Set course for the homeworld," he said quietly. "Maximum speed. We must warn our people." The flagship turned away from Earth, its engines engaging. As it accelerated away, Thractus looked back at the blue planet one last time. It looked so peaceful from space, so beautiful and innocent, but he now knew the truth. Humanity was anything but innocent. They were the most dangerous species he had ever encountered. On Earth, Admiral Patricia watched the Zalkari ship flee. She felt no satisfaction. 50,000 Zalkari were dead, 300 ships destroyed, but 7 million humans were still gone. Her revenge was not complete. It had barely begun. She turned to address the people in the command bunker. "Begin full military mobilization. Every shipyard, every factory, every laboratory. We are building a fleet. We are building an army. And we are going to hunt down every Zalkari in the galaxy. They started this war by killing our families. We will end it by making sure they can never threaten anyone again." Dr. Helen Carter stood beside her, looking at the screens showing the destroyed Zalkari ships. The weapons she had built had killed thousands. She had become a mass murderer in the name of revenge. But she thought about her sister's smile, her nephew's laughter, and she felt no regret. "When do we leave?" she asked Patricia. 6 months, Patricia replied. "We need time to build proper warships and produce enough weapons. Then we hunt them down, every last one." Around the room, others nodded in agreement. The grief was still there. The pain would never fully heal. But now they had purpose. Now they had direction. The Zalkari had created an enemy they could never defeat. An enemy motivated not by conquest or greed, but by the simple need to protect others from the same fate. Across Earth, the message spread. Humanity was going to war. Not a war of conquest or expansion. A war of extermination. The Zalkari would pay for what they had done. 6 months passed quickly. Earth transformed from a peaceful world into a military fortress. Every factory that once made cars or computers now made warships and weapons. Every scientist who once researched medicine or energy now worked on ways to destroy the Zalkari. The entire planet united with a single purpose: revenge. Dr. Helen Carter barely slept during those months. Her team mass-produced the Ghost Protocol weapons, creating enough firepower to destroy a dozen worlds. Every day she worked, she thought about her sister and nephews. Every night she dreamed about them. The grief never went away, but it fueled her work. She would make sure no other family suffered like hers had. Dr. Kyle Bennett, her assistant, expressed doubt one evening as they watched production lines churning out weapons of mass destruction. "We are becoming monsters ourselves," he said quietly. "How are we different from the Zalkari if we do the same things they did?" Helen stopped working and looked at him with tired eyes. "Monsters kill for pleasure. They kill for power. They kill because they enjoy it. We kill because we must. If we do not stop the Zalkari, they will continue destroying species across the galaxy. How many civilizations have they already wiped out? How many more will die if we show mercy? Sometimes being good means doing terrible things to stop worse things from happening." The human fleet launched exactly 6 months after the Zalkari attack. 2,000 warships, each one specifically designed to hunt and kill Zalkari vessels. They were crewed by volunteers, every single one of them someone who had lost family in the massacre. Admiral Patricia commanded from a new flagship called Retribution. The name said everything about humanity's intentions. The fleet's first target was a Zalkari colony world called Drakthar. It was home to 50 million Zalkari civilians and defended by 200 warships. The humans arrived without warning, appearing at the edge of the system. Admiral Patricia sent a single message to the colony: "You have 24 hours to evacuate. Anyone still on the planet after that will die. This is your only warning." The Zalkari military commander on Drakthar was outraged. These were the same primitives his people had easily defeated before. He refused to evacuate and ordered his fleet to attack. It was the last mistake he ever made. The battle lasted 3 hours. Every Zalkari ship was destroyed. The human fleet suffered only minor damage. When the evacuation deadline passed, Admiral Patricia gave the order. Human weapons bombarded the military installations on Drakthar, destroying bases, shipyards, and weapons facilities. But the civilian cities were left untouched. Patricia sent another message: You have seen what we can do. Next time, evacuate when we tell you to. We do not want to kill civilians. But we will eliminate anyone who fights us. Word of what happened at Drakthar spread quickly through the Zalkari Empire. The humans were not bluffing. They were not weak. They were coming with overwhelming force and advanced weapons. Panic spread through Zalkari space. Some colonies immediately surrendered. Others prepared to fight. All of them were terrified. The human fleet moved from system to system, methodically destroying every Zalkari military presence they found. Colonies that evacuated were spared. Colonies that resisted were crushed. The message was clear and consistent. Surrender your weapons and you live. Fight and you die. There was no negotiation. No mercy for those who resisted. After 6 months of this campaign, the human fleet arrived at the Zalkari homeworld. This was the heart of their empire, a planet called Zalkar Prime. It was defended by everything the Zalkari had left. 2 million soldiers, 500 warships, planetary shields, orbital weapons platforms, which was the most heavily defended place in the galaxy. Admiral Patricia broadcast one final message before the battle began. We gave you time to evacuate your civilians. Those who remain have made their choice. This is for Earth. This is for the 7 million innocent people you murdered. This is to ensure you never threaten another species again. Then the human fleet attacked. The battle for Zalkar Prime lasted 3 days. It was brutal and desperate. The Zalkari fought with courage, defending their homeworld with everything they had. But humanity fought with something more powerful. They fought with the memory of their dead. They fought with weapons designed specifically to counter Zalkari technology. And they fought with the cold determination of people who had already lost everything that mattered. On the second day of battle, the Zalkari planetary shields fell. On the third day, the last Zalkari warship was destroyed. War leader Thractus, who had survived to see his homeworld invaded, died when his bunker collapsed under human bombardment. The mighty Zalkari military, which had conquered 17 star systems, was completely destroyed. But Admiral Patricia did not order the extermination of the Zalkari people. Instead, she deployed a different weapon. Tiny robots, too small to see, spread across the planet. They did not harm living beings. Instead, they took apart the Zalkari's weapons factories, shipyards, and industrial facilities. Within 2 weeks, the Zalkari homeworld was reduced to a pre-industrial level. They could grow food and build houses, but they could never build warships again. Patricia broadcast one final message to the surviving Zalkari. You will live, but you will never threaten the galaxy again. Your weapons are gone. Your fleet is destroyed. Your colonies have been liberated, and we will be watching. If the Zalkari ever try to rebuild their military, if you ever try to conquer another species, we will return. And next time we will not be merciful. You killed 7 million of us. We are allowing 1 billion of you to survive. Remember that mercy. Remember who showed it to you. The surviving Zalkari, numbering about 1 billion, were left to contemplate their new reality. They had been the predators, the conquerors, the masters of 17 worlds. Now they were powerless, stripped of everything that made them strong. A generation would grow up hearing stories of how humans had humbled the greatest empire in the known galaxy. These young Zalkari would look at the stars with fear, not ambition. The human fleet prepared to return home. Commander Lisa Grant approached Admiral Patricia on the Bridge of Retribution. We won, but at what cost to ourselves? What have we become? Patricia looked out at the stars, her face lined with exhaustion and age. The war had aged her 20 years. We became what we had to become, Patricia said quietly. We did terrible things to stop a terrible enemy. We will carry the weight of what we have done for the rest of our lives. We became destroyers to stop destroyers. But we also prevented the Zalkari from destroying countless other species. We saved lives by taking lives. History will judge whether we made the right choice. Dr. Helen Carter sent a message from Earth to the returning fleet. Come home. The war is over. We have memorials to build and lives to rebuild. You have done what needed to be done. Now come home and rest. The fleet turned toward Earth, toward home, toward the chance to finally grieve properly for all they had lost. When the fleet returned, millions of people gathered at the 7 memorial sites where the cities once stood. 7 eternal flames burned, 1 for each million people lost. President Daniel Foster, now old and gray, addressed the survivors. His voice was heavy with emotion and exhaustion. We won a war we should never have had to fight. We destroyed an enemy that should never have threatened us, and we became something we never wanted to be, a species capable of ending another species. We will never forget the 7 million we lost, and we will never forget what we became to avenge them. Let this be a lesson to the galaxy. Humanity will offer peace to all who approach us with good intentions, but to those who mistake our compassion for weakness, who believe our love of life makes us easy targets, we say this clearly. We remember, we adapt, and we survive, no matter the cost. Other alien species had been watching the war from a distance. They saw how humans had completely destroyed an empire that had stood for thousands of years. They saw mercy at the end, but also saw what humans were capable of when pushed too far. Messages of friendship and alliance began arriving at Earth from dozens of civilizations. The meaning was clear. Humanity was not to be threatened, but they were also not monsters. They could be friends or enemies. The choice was yours. Admiral Patricia retired after the war. She could not command anymore. Not after ordering the deaths of so many. She spent her remaining years working with other species to establish protocols for first contact. Her goal was simple: make sure no other civilization would make the same mistake the Zalkari had. Make sure everyone understood that humanity valued peace but would wage total war if necessary. Dr. Helen Carter converted her weapons laboratory into a research center for peaceful technology. The tools of destruction were locked away in deep vaults, kept only as a reminder and a deterrent. But the knowledge remained, carefully guarded and passed down. Humanity would never be helpless again. They would never again watch their cities burn without being able to fight back. The Zalkari slowly rebuilt on their homeworld. But they built differently now. They became farmers and artists instead of warriors. Their children grew up hearing stories about the humans who had destroyed their empire in revenge for 7 million deaths. These young Zalkari looked at the stars not with dreams of conquest, but with fear of what else might be waiting in the darkness.